Hello, I'm Jim Demo with Clark County Close-Up. Congratulations on your election.
Thank you.
Okay, well, why don't you first tell our viewers a little bit about your background?
Well, California transplant, moved up here in 1970 and went to Columbia River High School, started or finished my high school career here, my college locally, and then met my wife and got married and had children, and early on became a deputy sheriff at age 22 and worked for the sheriff's office for the next 35 years until I retired in 2012 to run for the office of sheriff when I knew that it was coming open, and here I am.
Wow. Well, you were kind of talking, what are some of the different positions you held while you're working for the Clark County Sheriff's Office?
Well, like everybody, I came in the enforcement branch is where I worked as a deputy, and did that for 17 years, and while being a deputy had multiple roles. I was one of the first FTOs, or field training officers, in our agency. I was a DARE officer. I was a canine handler for 8 years with my dog Titan. Yeah, that was probably one of the more exciting positions and frustrating positions that I've had. I was on the SWAT team throughout my career for over 25 years in different levels. But early on, for that first 17 years, was very operational, and then became a supervisor in 1994 as a first-line supervisor sergeant, and continued back into the patrol function like we all do when you're promoted, but quickly went back into the special operations field and became the regional gang task force in '96, which was one of the first gang units that we had locally, and it was internationally recognized as a very efficient gang unit. And then promoted to lieutenant in '99, from that to commander a year later, again staying in the special ops division, running the SWAT team, the bomb unit, the gang unit, the parts of the tactical detective unit, and just pretty much special operations.
So what lured you to want to run for sheriff?
Well, in 2012, trying to make that decision as to where my life was taking me, and having 35 years on the job, and realizing that I really believed that Sheriff Lucas was not going to run again. He had been around a very long time, as you all know, and so I started really giving it some thought as to, is this something that I am the right person to be doing? I also knew that I had made a promise to my wife and my family that I would take some time off, we would travel, and I would get a fresh thought and a process of what it is I wanted to do in the future, whether I wanted to volunteer my time with at-risk kids like I've done a lot of, do some mission trips with the church. And during that trip, it became clear to me in conversation with my wife that what I really wanted to do was come back to the agency that I really loved working for. It wasn't even a job. It was so rewarding that I felt that if there was going to be a new sheriff, I felt that not only the integrity they had shown during my time working there, but my leadership and my experience was something that I owed back to the community for a short period of time to keep the sheriff's office rolling in the direction that it was heading.
Okay. So how have you been transitioning into your role? You've been in there for approximately 6 weeks.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
You know, it started early on when I realized, after November, winning the election, I started with my team of folks that I would be bringing in, and we actually had an office off-site and had started our planning phase as to what it would look like in those first 2 to 3 months at the sheriff's office. So we started a month early, looking at some priority areas that we thought were important, and started developing some plans. Now, we knew that until we actually took office and really spoke to the people that worked in every one of those units, that we were going to impact what our final decision was going to be. But we already had a nice game plan in place, and so we started that transition early, and it's still in process and will be for quite some time.
Now, how have you been reaching out to the public, and what's the best way for people to contact you?
Well, for me personally, I'm finding as the sheriff, I didn't have to reach out too much. They were reaching out to me, which was very encouraging. So I have been trying to make myself available to every social or civic organization that wants me in front of them. Obviously, as a sheriff, I also sit on many boards that Gary sat on as a prior sheriff. that I inherit to move forward, trying to understand the complexity of the job of sheriff when you're running an enforcement branch and a civil branch as well as a corrections branch. And at the same time, through the faith-based communities, I've reached out to some Hispanic groups, an Asian group that has contacted me to come to their Chinese New Year so that I can get to know them a little bit better. I did some Russian radio, trying to reach the Russian community in a way that works best for them. So we're reaching out to the diverse community at the same time they're reaching to us, and we're trying to make ourselves available to them.
Great. So what are your early impressions of the sheriff's job about 6 weeks in?
Wow, it's everything I thought it would be and more. The real eye-opener for me is that as the sheriff, my job is to do exactly what we're doing here. Sit, chat, talk, let people get a sense of who I am, make the work environment for the people that work for me one that is constructive for them, one that's enjoyable for them, where keep the morale high so that they can go out and do the work that needs to be done. I'm a hands-on kind of guy, always have been. So stepping back and being the visionary that is setting the tone for the agency is a new world for me. But it's one that I'm enjoying. I'm taking the challenge on head on. But I did a wise thing in surrounding myself with some very talented upper managers that when I give them the vision, they immediately know how to start, putting that vision into action.
Could you, for most viewers, just give a general overview? What are some of the services that you oversee?
Well, we do have the enforcement branch, the civil branch, and the corrections branch. Each one of those has unique pieces to it. The enforcement branch is where I worked forever. That's where we provide public safety. That's where we're going to have our Marine units and our dog units and our detective units and our Child Justice Center units and people working in elder care and all the areas that we need to provide to keep the public safe. In the corrections branch, obviously that's our jail. That's where we house the inmates. That's where we work closely with the local resources to help the inmates when they're in our custody and care so that hopefully they won't come back and that we provide them what they might need to make them a better citizen when they walk out the back door. And the civil branch behind that, they're the ones that do all of the paper trail. They take care of all of the civil processes, the move-outs, process the warrants. They do everything behind the scenes that we generate on the enforcement and in the corrections world, including maintaining all of our evidence, logistical equipment. You can imagine what an agency of the size of the Sheriff's Office needs to run on a day-to-day basis. That branch also takes care of making sure that everybody has everything that they need to do the job that they need to do.
How many employees do you have?
Right now, I think it's right at 410 employees, with 143 of those is sworn and the rest non-sworn.
Okay. So you talked about kind of developing a plan. What are some of your top priorities this upcoming year?
Well, it's certainly, I'm going to give you like three, but they're not in any necessary order because they all have to happen at once. We're in a real tough spot with the mental health issues that this community has countywide. And it really impacts not only the deputies on the street, but the corrections deputies in the office and in the jail that have to take care of them when they come in. And it's really an impact on the jail in terms of how we take care of them. You just can't house them with everybody else. So it's a real tough process. So we're working with all the local resources. We're working with the local, with the counselors on how do we look at a remodel that better suits the jail. Since we are a mental hospital right now is what it really feels like. How do we best treat the folks that are in there with those mental illnesses? So that becomes one of the main issues that we have right now that really touches the fabric of everything that we do. At the same time, I as the sheriff and the new administration need to understand how the agency works in the areas that we're not experts in. I classify myself, the enforcement branch, as somebody that knows the enforcement branch very well. I understand the corrections branch because I would bring people in and I would watch the process. The civil branch is totally new to me, and I've reached out to them to get their input. Because as I look at how I would like to align the minimum staff that we have, because that's a huge issue of the shortage of staff, but I understand that there isn't just a plethora of money out there either. So we need to be efficient in how we work. And so one of the things that the upper administrative staff is doing right now is reaching out to every working group at the bottom level and saying, how do we make your job easier? Tell us what doesn't work in your process and what might we do to make that easier. And then as I look at how I would like the agency to align and how they report, I can find some, I don't want to say redundancies, but I can find some efficiencies where I can take staff, move them to where they can be used better, more efficiently, and get more work done with fewer, while we work on trying to up the staff that we truly need.
Sure. Okay. You talked about some challenges that you see. What are some other challenges, kind of the biggest challenges you see in your office in the coming years, and also opportunities?
Every one of those challenges that I already talked about, and another major challenge to us is recruitment. Keeping our vacancies full. Finding the right people in our community that want to come to work for us, because we'll have an 8% turnover. That's in addition to any new staff we get. And trying to get them through the testing process is a huge challenge. It takes a long time. In the enforcement world, for me to have a test, have applicants, get through the background checks, and do everything that we need to do to get them hired, and then get them through the training, is sometimes up to 18 months before you see that body out in the field. That's a long time. And when you can't overhire, knowing that you're going to have these vacancies, you have to really work hard to not only train the people properly, keep them engaged and happy with what they're doing. But I see that as an opportunity too, because I see it as myself, my staff, the Civil Service Commission, the county HR, and my own HR division within the Sheriff's Office, all working together right now to look at how we can streamline. There's new technologies out there that we can utilize for background checks that will, I think, reduce it by 60 to 70% time-wise, so that we can get things done quicker, because we have a turnover of anywhere from 50 to 70% of people fail their backgrounds, to where we're in a process with them already and now they're gone and we have to start over again. So the challenges bring those opportunities for us to put our heads together and figure out, how do we fix some of this? At the same time, when you asked earlier about reaching out to the community, finding the individuals and the diverse groups within our community and encouraging them to want to be part of the Clark County Sheriff's Office at a young age. Start them at high school. How do we reach out to them through our outreach unit to get them interested in law enforcement, all aspects of it, public safety, and get them wanting to come to us, take our test, do well, and we look forward in the future to how we can have workshops, how we can have different opportunities to be with them, to answer questions, to clarify for them what the job is really like, so that it's something that they would be interested in and will test for it and fill those vacancies that we have.
Okay. So when you're not, sheriff's hat's off, how do you like to spend your free time?
I love to be with my family. I've always been somebody that liked to camp, go outdoors, do those fun kinds of things, boating, motorcycle riding. That hasn't happened a lot in the last couple of years, getting to this position, but I really look forward to those weekends where we can have dinner with the family, watch a Super Bowl, that kind of thing. So It's all about family.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the viewers?
I think hopefully the viewers have some sense of who I am, getting myself to where I'm at. But I would like to remind them that the job is not the most important thing. My faith is very important to me. My family is very important to me. And I give them 110%. I love my job, and I give it 110% too. But it's third priority in the line. And I would encourage people to keep their priorities straight as to where they're at, what's important to them, because I think a lot of that kind of work in our community would make my job in the public safety world a little bit easier as well. And I look forward to any opportunity that I have, even through volunteering, because I do some volunteering and mentoring with at-risk kids, that whatever the sheriff's office can do to help families be better at what they do, we want them to contact us, and we want to be able to reach out to them and help them in any way we can.
Okay, well, the final question. How can they contact you? What's the contact information?
Well, first of all, they can get to me
Okay.
by just dialing the main county number.
397-2211. That's the county sheriff's office.
Yeah.
And then also the website, clark.wa.gov/sheriff.
Exactly.
Okay.
And if for some reason they really need to speak to me, and believe me, I'm pretty busy, but I'm going to give them every opportunity they can. If they dial the 397-2366, that'll get directly to my administrative assistant, who will filter those and get them to me, and I'll return those calls as best I can.
Well, thank you very much for meeting with us, and good luck with your new position.
Thank you. Appreciate it.